Welcome to another spine-tingling tale from my travels. Tonight, I'm taking you back to one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Picture this: the scorching heat of the desert, an endless sea of sand, and an encounter so chilling it still sends shivers down my spine. This is the story of when I was lost in the desert and faced something far more horrifying than the harsh elements. Buckle up, because this is Lost in the Desert, my creepiest encounter in the Middle East. Before we begin, be sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. It was a typical evening in the Middle East, the sun dipping below the horizon and casting eerie shadows over the vast desert. My team and I had been on a reconnaissance mission, our vehicle breaking down in the middle of nowhere. As the temperature plummeted and darkness enveloped us, we were forced to navigate on foot. With every step, the desert seemed to grow colder and more foreboding. The once serene landscape transformed into a labyrinth of shadowy dunes. My senses were on high alert, the isolation making every sound feel amplified. We were separated from our vehicle, and with no GPS signal, the feeling of being utterly lost began to set in. Hours passed, and just as exhaustion began to take hold, we stumbled upon an old, dilapidated structure. It was barely visible against the night sky, an ancient ruin that seemed out of place amidst the desert's emptiness. There was an unsettling aura around it, but we had little choice but to seek shelter. As we approached, the temperature dropped even further, and a heavy, oppressive silence settled in. Inside, the ruin was a maze of crumbling walls and debris. We set up a makeshift camp, but the atmosphere was unnervingly quiet. It was as though the desert itself was holding its breath. That night, as we tried to rest, we heard it, a whispering voice carried on the wind. At first, I thought it was just the desert playing tricks on us. But the whispers grew louder and more distinct, almost as if they were trying to communicate. One of my team members, a seasoned veteran named Tom, tried to reassure us. "It's just the wind," he said, but his voice trembled. We all felt it. The whispers seemed to come from all directions, and they carried an eerie, mournful tone. The whispers turned into a chant, an incantation that made my blood run cold. We gathered around the campfire, trying to stay warm and calm, but as the chanting grew louder, we could make out words in a language we didn't recognize. The whispers spoke of lost souls and curses, invoking an ancient darkness. As the night wore on, one of us spotted something moving in the distance, an indistinct, shadowy figure gliding across the dunes. I thought it was a mirage, but the figure grew clearer as it approached. It was a tall, gaunt figure, cloaked in rags, its face hidden in darkness. My heart pounded as the figure drew nearer. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding over the sand without making a sound. Its presence seemed to suck the warmth from the air, and we were left shivering, not just from the cold, but from sheer terror. We could barely see its face, but the eyes, if you could call them that, were deep, dark voids that seemed to stare right through us. The air grew colder, and a palpable sense of dread filled the ruins. We huddled together, desperately trying to make sense of what we were seeing. As the figure neared, it let out a chilling, guttural cry that echoed across the desert. We were paralyzed with fear, unable to move as the figure approached us. It raised its hand, and an icy wind swept through the ruins, extinguishing our campfire. With our fire gone, the darkness was absolute. I could hear my companions breathing heavily, their fear as palpable as mine. Suddenly, the figure stopped and let out another ear-splitting cry. In that moment, I felt a cold, searing pain in my chest, as though the figure's rage was penetrating my very soul. In a desperate bid for survival, we bolted from the ruins, racing across the desert with no clear direction. The whispers followed us, now a deafening roar that seemed to chase us through the sand. We stumbled and fell, driven by sheer adrenaline and terror. As dawn approached, we finally found our way back to the remains of our vehicle. The sun's first light was a welcome sight, and the figure was nowhere to be seen. We were shaken, exhausted, and deeply disturbed by what we had encountered. We managed to repair the vehicle and get back to safety, but the encounter left a lasting scar. We spoke little of that night, but the whispers and the ghostly figure haunted our dreams for weeks. The desert had revealed its dark side, and we were left with a story that defied explanation. As I look back on that night, the memory of the ghostly figure and the eerie whispers remains as vivid as ever. The desert, with its vast, desolate beauty, holds secrets that are better left undisturbed. And while I've faced many horrors in my life, nothing quite compares to the terror of being lost in that desolate expanse, face to face with something truly supernatural. Thank you for joining me on this harrowing journey through the desert. If you enjoyed this tale, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more chilling stories from my adventures. Until next time, keep your lights on and your wits about you.